This is Peter Higgins at Share Talk. Today I have the privilege of speaking with Nigel Theobald, the CEO and founder of N4 Pharma, who have today listed and are dealing on the AIM market for the first time. Good morning to you, Nigel.
Good morning, Peter. Good to talk to you.
Thank you. It's very, very kind of you to take the time out today. I know you're busy to share with our Share Talk listeners the journey that you've had thus far with N4 Pharma. Now, N4 Pharma are a specialist pharmaceutical company which have formulates existing drugs and vaccines to improve their performance. But because you've just listed today, I've taken the opportunity to speak with you. I want to share, if possible, the journey that you've had thus far and what the potential is for N4 Pharma going forward. Would that be okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So you founded N4 in 2014. Do you want to bring me up to speed from there, please?
That's great. So we founded in 2014. My background is in pharma and consumer product development, having previously worked at Boots and set up a similar company, Oxford Pharma Science. And in 2014, the journey started really with us trying to source very strong intellectual property, either from the academic world or from the business world, that we could then review as to what its commercial potential is. So that's what we've been doing for the last 2 years. So we have two divisions, one focused on reformulation of generic drugs, and the other on a delivery system that allows us to take an existing vaccine, a DNA or an RNA vaccine, and then reformulate that into our delivery system to improve it. So in essence, as you say, what we're doing with our reformulation work, we're taking existing products and we're making them work better in some way. Each one, it varies as to how we actually improve it. And that's really the whole area of reform. That's why, for us, reformulation is the way forward, because big pharma companies that have let their drugs come off patent, so they face the patent cliff, they fall off, they lose a lot of value. They tend to be abandoned. These are old generic molecules that tend to be abandoned. Indeed, but there's still lots of ways to improve them.
Yeah. So your generics division, you're focusing on that at the minute. The three different parts of that.
Yep. So within the generics, so the first 2 years we've been reviewing the patents. So we're working with a company called Opal IP. They are experts in writing very strong, broad life cycle management patents, having previously done that role at GlaxoSmithKline. And what we have got is the exclusive rights to work with them commercially and review which of their patents and the other ones that they're still writing we want to bring to market. So we have taken on board and filed patents for a drug called Sildenafil, which is the generic name for Viagra. A couple of anti-hypertension drugs, blood pressure reduction called sartans. One is losartan, the other is valsartan.
Yeah.
And the third one is aprepitant, which is an anti-emetic and anti-sickness drug that is currently used in treatment for cancer and post-operative surgery. And so what we do is we with those broad patents, then it allows us to come up with a formulation that is then optimal for that particular use. So I'll give you a good example. The one that's most advanced is Sildenafil. So that's a drug that was originally developed for heart conditions. And the erectile dysfunction market came out of the fact that there was a side effect associated with that drug, which Pfizer then chose to follow rather than the heart usage.
Yeah.
But the issue with that drug is it doesn't work particularly well for erectile dysfunction because it wasn't designed for that. So it takes an hour, it starts to work. It doesn't last very long. It has a half-life of 6 hours, so it means it goes out of the body quite quickly, and you can't take it with food. And what patients who suffer from that condition want, most importantly, and this is where my background comes in from consumer product development, is they want a happy, healthy sex life, which means they want the product to start working as soon as they take it, and they want it to last a bit longer. So there are alternatives that have been developed by the big pharma companies that deal with one or two of those issues at any one point in time. Maybe Cialis, for example, that lasts a longer time. There are creams out on the market. There are gels being developed. There are other faster acting versions. But ours is the only one that's got that perfect profile that starts to work quickly. It stays then within the therapeutic window and lasts quite a long time. We estimate between sort of 12 and 18 hours. So we basically have a perfect product for erectile dysfunction. And that's what reformulation allows you to do. It allows you to actually look at what the market requires and actually develop a better product.
Okay, so sorry.
Go ahead.
Nigel.
Yeah, so I say, and people often ask, what is the reformulation market all about? So why do people do that? So when something comes off patent and it's dropped by the pharma company, then it becomes basically just generic competition. And then up to that point, you've only had one choice. So up till now, if you want the Viagra, you go and get the Viagra from the doctor. It's take it or leave it. This is what the product does. A good example is ibuprofen. That's a product I know very well from my time back at Boots. So ibuprofen was off patent in 1988, then became generic. And if you look on the market today, the market is worth around $8.8 billion. And 99% of that is all from new reformulated versions of ibuprofen. That you can't really find the original prescription product anywhere. There's a very, very small amount of Brufen, which is what it was called. So what happens once it comes off patent is that the market moves into new reformulated products because each of these products has a slight difference. So, for example, ibuprofen, there's liquid gels, there's capsules, there's sugar-coated, there's sustained release, there's quicker acting, there's all sorts of different versions. So that's the market in which N4 is going to compete. The products that are either coming off patent or already off patent, which need new life breathed into them, and that's what our reformulations do.
Okay, I wanted to go back to the Sildenafil.
Sildenafil. Yeah,
Sildenafil. Sorry, and just talk about the potential because you're at the clinical stage at the moment. So
we are. Yeah, just to correct, we are in the laboratory stage. So
stage. Sorry.
Yeah. So our business model is to get our products what we call commercial ready. So that's the point where we should then go and do a deal with a pharma company. So because we've licensed in various patents and various technologies, our business model is we pay out a fee based on what we earn in the future.
Yeah.
So we need to get to the market as quickly as we can, but we're not going to launch the product and sell it ourselves. So we're going to license it to a large pharma company. To get to that point, we need to do proof of concept work. So Sildenafil, we're doing our work in the lab. So to get the dissolution profile that we're very happy with. The reason now that we're listing is because we need to move out of the sort of pure patent IP phase into doing some simple human volunteer studies. So because there's no need to repeat any safety, any toxicity work with this, because that's all given, we don't have to do any clinical efficacy trials. We just have to demonstrate in a small number of healthy volunteers that we get the blood in plasma levels that matches the profile that we are working towards. Once we've done that, we go and talk to the regulators, be it the FDA, also the MHRA, maybe BfArM in Germany. And based on that output, we are then at a point where we could strike a deal with a pharma company for a royalty on the product. Or we might choose to go and take it to marketing authorization ourselves, which means do the next clinical trial, because the final clinical trial is one that's larger. So based on our initial data, then the statisticians will sit down with the regulators and say, right, we might need 30 patients, 40 patients, or whatever to complete the final clinical trial. Typically, that would be done by our licensed partner, but if the value is high enough, we might talk to our shareholders and agree that the right thing to do is to do that ourselves.
Okay, so with your first product then, when do you think you'll be product ready for that, commercial ready, sorry?
We have plans to get in front of the FDA sometime in 2018. So that's when we'll be really striking our commercial deals.
Excellent. So in essence today then, you've had your admission, your first day of dealings, you've raised 1.5 million. Obviously there's lots of legacy stuff that you guys have had to force through from the old Azima stuff. So you're free, you're clear, you've got your team behind you now. So 2017 is all about the lab work and getting things ready?
2017, yeah. So the reason for the funds is as I mentioned before, we want to get into clinic, into simple human healthy volunteer study with Sildenafil. We have other patents that we've already filed that we're doing formulation work for. We want to accelerate that. and we will have new patents that we'll be looking to file and then start doing formulation lab work on.
Yeah.
So we've got an ongoing continuous pipeline that just feeds through into that proof of concept work.
Yeah.
On the vaccine side, we are doing quite a lot of research on exactly how our delivery system works. We've got a brilliant biomedical catalyst grant that's funding the vast majority of that work, but we also be doing some additional work just to answer all the key questions. So we outsource everything. So we're engaging with experts who are working with AstraZeneca and vaccine companies who know the sort of questions that these guys ask of delivery systems. So what we're doing is just doing a check exercise to show how we compare with all the other leading systems that be used for delivering DNA vaccines or RNA vaccines, so that we can then confidently go into those conversations showing exactly how ours work and how superior we are.
No, you spoke about the experts. I mean, obviously, with your background, you've also brought in Paul Titley, and you've got Dr. David Templeton as well.
That's correct, yeah. So Paul has got a huge amount of expertise in formulation development. So, his background is in making sure we use all the right techniques. Because we've got a very strong patent, we're not restricted to one particular science for our product formulation work. So the patent is strong. Paul will determine the right way to make the product.
Yeah.
David is crucial because he makes sure that what we're doing is clinically and pharmacokinetically relevant. The last thing we want to do is go and make a product that clinicians say they don't want. So the role of the team is really to make sure that we are developing products that we can technically deliver, products that are read by the clinicians and patients, and products that make commercial sense. So that's the strength of the team, and the number of years' experience across just our board is huge.
So, with regards to the team you've got in place in the UK, your partners and your external teams, you say you outsource a lot. So, have you got people in the US, in China, where else?
At the moment, the formulation work, everything we're doing primarily in the UK.
Yeah.
Some of the vaccines work also with our partners in Australia, who we've licensed the technology from.
Okay.
We will use regulatory experts in individual countries. It's very important to go and, when you're talking to the FDA, to talk with the local regulatory expert. Similarly in Germany, similarly in the UK. So as we move into the commercial phase, we'll broaden some of our experts. But there's plenty of expertise in the UK. The large pharma companies have been closing down their development teams for years, so they've left behind excellent individuals that have gone out and set up their own life science skill-based companies. Things like in Alderley Park up in Manchester, BioCity in Nottingham, Pfizer's ex-place down in Sandwich. There's a lot of people that we can use. As one thing that the UK is great on, bioscience expertise.
Absolutely. Now, one of the important things for AIM investors is to find out more about the CEO and the team. And one of the things they like to know is how much, as they call it, skin in the game does the CEO have within the company. What sort of holding do you have, Nigel, on the board have in N4 Pharma?
I have 17% of N4 Pharma after all the admission today.
Yeah.
And there are some consolidation shares that come my way once we hit certain share prices. Okay. So I split the latest part of the deal into two, one now and the rest when we achieve some targets, which again gives you confidence of where I think we're going to go. But in terms of, I've invested a huge amount of money in getting this up and running. Onzima then came in last year with a loan to get us to the next point, and that's why we're now moving on to the next part of the growth curve. There are options on board for the team that I've just brought in as well. So that's how we reward the rest of the board.
Yeah, because I noted the fact that it was investment by Onzima was taken part. Was it last March 2016?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, and now it's essentially it's a reverse takeover. Am I correct in saying that?
It was a reverse takeover into the cash shell after their shares were suspended. Yeah. Okay,
so now I'm looking at the fact that within 3 years of you establishing N4 Pharma, you've got it listed. So you're obviously quite a driven entrepreneur in the sense of that's what investors want to see with the CEOs. Want to see it driven and pushed them and to reach the full potential of the company.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's been my intention. So, from my perspective, it was spot on target. So, I gave myself sort of 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
So I'm pretty pleased that we got it listed within 3.
Excellent. Well done. So, with regards to the patent applications you've got overall, what's the number there?
We've got. We filed 40 odd patents on Sildenafil. We're only taking one of those forward. So we've done some combination work, and we just recently filed one into PCT phase. That's basically a part of our patent strategy. When we're evaluating different patents, we file them all because it doesn't cost anything to file, and then you decide which ones you want to take forward. So it's all part of the patent strategy. So some will be letting drop, others we might refile later. But the key core one on our formulation is now going into what they call PCT phase and will get published later in this year. The same thing will happen with sartans, but you'll see with a men and a prepotent, we only have one patent. So we've evolved our thinking there so that our strategy for the new patents are just to do them as one rather than take lots of combinations and combine them again at the end.
Okie dokie. So, I mean, ideally, you've got one of the better partners that you could have in a sense of open IP. So there's a continual pipeline and opportunities for you.
Absolutely. Well, those guys, that was their role, to make sure they write very strong broad patents. For me, the most important thing in business development is having good intellectual property.
Absolutely.
You can go along with a particular science if you've got a way of doing something one particular way. And the first thing the guys in the big pharma companies, let's be honest, they go into their patent attorney and say, can you get around this for me, please? And if they can't, then that's how the conversations work. So you do have to have very strong IP coupled with incredibly perceptive products that patients and clinicians want. And then you've got a very good chance of getting your product commercialised.
Okie dokie. Well, Nigel, I've covered all of my questions. I want to congratulate you on getting your listing in the first day of dealings on AIM this morning. I just wondered if there was anything that you could encapsulate the conversation with and the opportunities for N4 Pharma for our listeners, please, to close.
Without being any specific, what we have within our strategy is to make sure we have a portfolio of products. We're not a one-trick pony. That's the most important thing. I mean, if you're looking at big biotech, quite often people will go and raise multi-millions of dollars, pounds, whatever, but then their one product fails and then they have an issue. We have got a range of different products. Each one is relatively low spend and relatively quick to bring to market. So we have low risk but high reward. What we're not foregoing is the reward, but we are for improving the risk profile of each of our products. So it gives the company a maximum possible chance to succeed in as many products as it can.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm looking at your market cap this morning, and I'm looking at the fact that it's sub 10 million, nearer to 5, and the potential for the patents and reformulation that you've got running to the billions. So if goals are met and targets are reached, you've got an exceptional opportunity in front of you.
I totally agree. We have a very strong opportunity in front of us. If I didn't think that we had a good opportunity, we wouldn't be doing it.
Absolutely. Well, Nigel, thank you ever so much for taking the time to speak with ShareTalk this morning. And we look forward to speaking with you again in the future. And we want to wish you all the very best going forward.
Thank you very much, Peter. Glad to talk to you.
Thank you, Nigel. Take care. God bless.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.